What's up, Jesse?
Baby, what happened to him last night? uh, that was awesome.
Excuse me. They're eating the
Listening.
dogs, and you're
They're
laughing.
eating the dogs, the cats.
The cats. They're eating the dogs and the cats. Okay, she probably shouldn't attack as much as I want, okay, because I'm just unhinged. But you got to admit, every single time she poked him even a little bit, he lost his. He got so mad about that rally comment, he even came back at the end of his answer to add more about his rallies and how big they are.
No, that was the best part. It's funny. So, my girlfriend's a teacher, and she's from Mexico, and she's listening to this because obviously, with Trump's position on immigration, it's really important to her. And what was funny was I guess I left a link up to your kick stream on my laptop, so she went over to the laptop and she caught you. You said something like, if she hits the rally thing one more time, he's gonna drop the N word. He goes, "This is my promise to you as an American."
True.
It made her laugh. I mean, I was stunned at how quickly he fell apart. I mean, I was pretty optimistic about the entire debate, which is unlike me because I'm very cynical. I'm not like IRI. I usually think the glass is half empty. But
True.
yeah, she saved that. She had that in her back pocket, I think, and she deployed it pretty well because the topic was immigration, and that's a losing issue for Democrats, according to the polls, even though it probably shouldn't be, given what Trump did to that border bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so she deployed it like break glass in case of emergency. And yeah, he spiraled, and I think that was the beginning of the end. He was always on the back foot after that. I don't even know if he answered the follow-up question. I don't think he gave a single answer to it. He's like, we got to talk about the
He didn't
rallies
answer
first.
a single question posed to him for the entire night. It's actually very frustrating. It's so funny now, especially as these debates become more unhinged. I can see so many parallels to my own debates. So I understand like what needs to happen or what's not happening. Like for instance, Kamala did one thing that I do, and then she didn't do a second thing that I forget to do sometimes. In the beginning, she very wisely called out that Donald Trump is going to pivot and say in unhinged shit immigration constantly. He's going to pivot to immigration constantly. She called that out and it was good. She did one time remember to do this, but I think she should have done it more. She pointed out once, hey, there he goes. He's doing the thing over and
Yeah.
over and over again. There he goes. He's doing the thing. She needs to remind people more, I think, when he's being unhinged. Chris Christie obviously, we remember the legendary Christie Rubio face off when Rubio got the T1000 accusations afterwards. Was hilarious. A few things frustrated me a lot about this as well. Also, other things I noticed. Sometimes after debates, especially like for Finkelstein, I noticed this. I don't know if I can ever be saved from bad moderation. And I understand that there's this obsession because conservatives have set the bar so low to appear unbiased. But when one side is acting worse, they're going to be disciplined more than the other side. That's just the reality
Right.
of it. People need to stop being afraid of appearing biased and instead do your job. Donald Trump did not answer a single question the entire night. Every time and even when they would repeat questions, he would never answer. Do you know if Trump would veto an abortion ban?
No, I sure
You
don't
know,
because
don't. No, you don't. You don't know any of his policies. You don't know how he would address
yeah.
any issues. You don't know anything about anything because Trump didn't actually answer a question at all the entire night. And Donald Trump got the last word on every single question.
And the one time she tried
She got
to let,
annihilated. She got cut off by
yeah,
both moderators. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Basically telling her to shut the fuck up. I mean, yeah, so a couple of things. Yeah. MAGA is, of course, bitching that the moderation was stacked, which to me, that's like the go-to sign that you lost the debate, right? If you're complaining about the refs. But I think it's important that if you actually go back and watch the debate, the moderators were asking pretty tough questions of the vice president. As a matter of fact, the first question right out the gate was to Harris, and it was pretty pointed, like, hey, um, most Americans think that your administration that they were better off 4 years ago. Do you want to make that case to the American people that they are better off 4 years ago? And the sad thing is, of course, objectively speaking, we are better off than we were 4 years ago because 4 years ago was 2020, and Americans tend to forget that. But right out the gate, the question was posed to her, and it was a tough question about a major electoral vulnerability. And then at other points, like, basically calling her a flip flopper, like, hey, you flip flop all the time. Do you want to tell Americans why you're such a lying, so and so? And so she had to answer that. And there was even one, and I'm always kind of surprised that moderators tee this up, but they even teeter up to basically defy President Biden on Gaza. Like, hey, what was your
one thing that's
administration?
very annoying, she can't say this out loud because it sounds bad, but every intelligent person knows this. If she does have a significantly different or a different direction she wants to head on Gaza, she can't say that right now as the vice president, right? It puts her in a very weird spot. Yeah.
No, 100%. Like and that's the thing that frustrates me, because Dana Bash on CNN asked the same question during the joint interview between Harris and Waltz. And again, MAGA was like, oh, that was such a softball interview. Like, no, if you actually pay attention to the questions, they're pretty challenging. She's asking the sitting vice president to publicly critique or defy her boss, the current president of the United States, on a position over which she has no constitutional authority. And again, she navigated that, I think, to the best of her ability. But so, yeah, it's just not true that the moderators tossed her softballs. They asked her tough questions. Then, to your point, they just ceded. He had the last word every
single time. Yeah.
The one time she even just, okay, here's the question. What should she have done? Should she have said, no, you give him the last word all the time?
She should just fight for it more. She should fight for it more. If she did, they'll let her. It's just like Pierce on my shows. You see it, right? Like if you start talking, even when Pierce is like, well, we need to move on. If you just keep talking, eventually they'll let you do it. Like rarely are they going to cut your mic. And it's almost because it wouldn't be good TV to cut your mic. Like if you feel so strongly that you want to say something, then they know it's probably going to be better for you to just say it. Yeah. So you got to keep pushing. Yeah.
I mean,
I think she did well. I think it was a good balance of defending them on the policy while also attacking Trump in using good rhetoric. I think she had a decent balance of that. Trump had almost, I thought it was funny. I called it a Biden moment where, was he talking about funding to Ukraine? He was starting to do some ramble where he was like, they wanted 215 billion and then we had 200 million or billion, but then we had 250 billion. I was like, what the f*** are you even talking about right now? Like he started to like ramble hard on some random It's very frustrating though and again, this feels like my debates where like I'll be in the middle of a debate with somebody and I'm like going through all of this information in my head. I'm trying to crowd these rhetorically effective statements. And then my debate opponent will just say the most unhinged wild shit. And the moderator's just like nodding his head at both. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Like I'm like, my brain is working 150 miles an hour here to try to keep up with everything. And the other dude across from me is just saying wacky, random retard speak. Like what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, holy shit. And yeah, that was Donald Trump not answering a single question all night. Again, I don't think it'll happen. Maybe it shouldn't even happen. Maybe she will come off as bitchy. She does it. I still want Kamala to ask Trump a question. What do you think Roe v. Wade was? You keep saying it threw it back to the states. What do you mean when you say that? That's not really true, right? What do you think NATO stands for? Like
what is a tariff?
Or, what is a tariff? Explain a tariff. I don't think he knows what a tariff. I think he thinks a tariff is just like a bill that you send to another country? Like what is the difference between the trade deficit and the budget deficit? Do you know what that means? Like, what is that? Yeah, I don't.
Well, and somebody else, it may have been you, but somebody else, it may have been Luke Beasley or you, pointed out that Trump references that they're letting people out of their insane asylums, and he kind of drew the connection that it may be Trump conflating a mental institution with
I've heard that
asylum, the asylum program, and so she could even ask him, what do you say asylum? What are you talking about? And
what does asylum mean? Yeah,
right. What are the three branches of government? All these things. I mean, I think he would fail a basic civics test.
Absolutely.
Without a teleprompter, or she could even roast him. She'd be like, "Hey, listen, I heard you had trouble the other day when somebody asked you to explain how you would reduce the cost of childcare. I'm going to give you 30 seconds of my time if you want to mulligan and explain what you're going to do to cut childcare costs." The record defending thing, I also want to talk about that for a second because I was impressed. The conventional wisdom is that she should run as far from Biden as possible because even though the objective merits of the Biden administration are, as far as I'm concerned, a matter of a fact, the polling perception is very different. She didn't really run from Biden. I mean, she made clear to distinguish herself from him. I'm obviously not Joe Biden. I'm a new way forward. But like even Afghanistan, right? So that is
she totally sidestepped that. And you know what? I give her props for that because and I also wish she would have asked Trump a question afterwards. So they asked about like the pullout. They were asking like explain how it was kind of like bungled. 13 Americans died. How did that happen? And she didn't really address that, but they didn't hold her to it at all, and she kind of talked around it.
She kind of came up a couple of times, but they did ask a specific question about it, which is, do you bear responsibility for? Yeah, and I don't know how you answered that one in a persuasive way. So she did sidestep the direct question, but she said, listen, she said, I agreed with Joe Biden's decision to withdraw. And then it was either in that answer or just a few minutes later, she mentioned that Trump released 5,000 Taliban fighters and that he did set the stage for the Doha Agreement, and that he didn't enforce the terms. And I think that that's good because, that was the turning point for Biden's presidency with his approval rating. He was underwater. Like that was it. He's never been above water since the withdrawal. And the day before the debate, House Republicans in the Foreign Affairs Committee released a report. They swear it was not supposed to be politically partisan or timed to try to take her knees out from under her in the debate. But they dropped another report blaming not just Biden but her, even though like in previous drafts of the report she'd only been like mentioned 3 times by the witnesses. They increased the number of direct references to Harris in the final report since she's the Democratic nominee. But
the House Republicans are insane. You know that, right? It's a clown circus there. The Comer guy, Jim Jordan, all these people are insane. Did you read that 300-page report? I skimmed some of it. I'm guessing it was dog shit. Nothing came from it. Where they supposedly proved Hunter Biden, doing horrible things, trading on his dad's name. Did you hear about any of that or read any of that?
So I did. I followed the impeachment effort against the president over the past year pretty closely, and then they did drop a final report. In the final report, they say Joe Biden. This is James Comer. Joe Biden committed impeachable offenses, but then they don't actually recommend an impeachment vote, which they're full of shit if that's the case. Say what you want about Democrats. When they felt that Donald Trump committed an impeachable offense, and they were in the majority to actually at least attempt to vote, they did every time. And of course, Nancy Pelosi has like 70,000 more IQ points than any Republican in Congress, so she was able to get the votes. But yeah, like it's a total show from start to finish. But if you actually read that Afghanistan report, it goes into more detail, I think, even than I realized. It breaks down on the timeline that Trump, I knew that Trump was still basically holding up his end with the Taliban. I'm just thinking of his answers yesterday where he's like, I dealt with Abdul. I talked to Abdul. I showed him a picture of his house.
I wish you would have asked. I think Trump actually thinks that the 13 Americans that died were killed by the Taliban. I think he thinks that.
When it was ISIS.
She should have. She should have asked him that. I want to hear him. Like, who do you think killed those Americans? I don't think Trump knows the answer to that.
No, I don't think he does either. And again, like, to me, this is the point I make. I don't know if it's particularly effective. I think it is, but like when I get into conversations with centrists and conservatives on this, it's like, listen, if we're going to evaluate a president's fitness for office based on the number of people who died on their watch, like, you make that argument because Biden actually took responsibility and says he knows he has command responsibility for anyone who dies on his watch. But more people died in Afghanistan. U.S. troops died under Trump, and so it's like, even on that statistic, Trump is just a loser. But Trump was holding up his end with the Taliban every step of the way during that last year in office, even though at certain benchmarks where the Taliban was supposed to do certain things, like, they didn't do it. So it's like, even along the way, he knew and was told, hey, the Taliban's not holding up their end of the deal. They're just not shooting U.S. troops, which is only one condition. And Trump continued to reduce U.S. forces anyway. So I'm sorry, I am a firm believer, and I'm prepared to die on the Hill, that to the extent that you can say Afghanistan's withdrawal was a disaster, that is 90% because of Trump. And even the mistakes that Biden made, in hindsight, they were still sound decisions. Like, they made sense, even if we can say, well, we should have done something else. So I like the fact that she flipped the script on that and just didn't take the L. Do you expect that this will have an impact on the election? Or, because obviously the last one did. Biden dropped out, but do you think this one will?
I feel like this is more of a standardish debate. I don't think it'll have that much of an impact. Like, people who there were probably a lot of people on the Democratic side who got to breathe a sigh of relief that Kamala didn't fumble it hardcore. And then, I mean, Trump's fans are never abandoning him, no matter how stupid or crazy his answers are. The media is starting a little bit to get better at holding Trump accountable, but it's so difficult because you're dealing with a group of people that are holding your country hostage, right? Like, my biggest complaint about switching from StarCraft to League is that in StarCraft, I don't care how toxic my opponents are. It's a 1v1 game. You can be as toxic as you want. In League of Legends, it's crazy, in that the toxic people might be on your team, and now you've got to be like doing your best to win the game, and you've got to play therapist at the same time. So ordinarily, like if this was just a debate that I'm in, I would want the moderators and me to be as brutal as possible. The other guy across from me is going to scream about trans surgeries and illegal immigrants in prison and eating dogs and shit. Well, okay, well, we're just going to go in like really hard. You're going to call her and her dad Marxists or whatever? Okay, well, we're just going to go hard. But you can't do that because then all the crybabies that watch Trump are going to feel attacked, and then you have to be, gentle with them, and it's just so annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the CNN reporters, Abby Phillip, she posts on Twitter, which I was impressed that she did it because she risks the backlash of being seen as liberally biased. But she's like, FYI, if you engage in asymmetric lying, you will be covered asymmetrically, or you should be covered asymmetrically, which is precisely the attitude that the media should have. And said this both sides false equivalence.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question. Of all the conservative cope and centrist cope you have seen or watched, what's your favorite?
I mean, the Alex Jones, I don't know if he started it, but now I'm seeing the idea that she had a secret earpiece in.
Oh, wait, the Harris did?
Yes.
Nice, of course. Of course. For me personally, it's just been watching Megan. Well, that was about Taylor Swift, so never mind. But Ben Shapiro, it's tied. Ben Shapiro was having a back-to-back tweet meltdown. And then there's this guy called Eric Erickson. He's a popular conservative radio host. And he's kind of seen as like the more evangelical Christian because he's criticized Trump in the past. Well, he went on an all caps like dropping F-bombs and like multiple times and multiple tweets. Like he actually yelled at MAGA Republicans. He's like, "You stupid! You told him about the dog and cat. Now he said it on live TV."
Yeah.
And like. He's just yelling at other Trumpers. I don't know, man.
That's
I
funny.
love it. She may still lose the election. It's going to still be very, very close. I have no doubt about it. But just for a brief moment, we can savor.
Hopefully,
savor what happened last night.
Well,
good, buddy.
I think I thought the line of the night was definitely Trump's. I have a concept of a plan. I think that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus.
No, I mean, and you said it in what I saw towards the tail end there. That again, if you just played a litmus test, that okay, scratch out Trump's name, keep a Trump quote, scratch out his name, and slap Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton. You slap any Democrat in front of that quote, and it's just covered radically differently. And I do think, I know you've got a debate with Wick tonight about the Supreme Court, and so I'm just thinking like of like bigger institutions like the court and the media. But I do think for our nation, it's never going to be perfect, but to be healthier, I think that the media is also going to have to engage in some sort of introspection on this because whatever, I'm sure you feel this way too, like you can have an evaluation of a standard. Like we may disagree on what the standard is, that the standard is too strict or it's too loose. But at the very least, if you could just be consistent, that would be something, right? If your standard is that it's permissible to say unhinged, then it should be okay for Democrats to say unhinged. There should be really no difference in the coverage. Or if we're going to have strict standards, then it has to apply to everybody. But I do think that is a problem. And then I don't know. I hope that there's an opportunity. It's the third election cycle for the media to have a come to Jesus moment about Trump. But I don't expect it happens because I think that overall they are more like 2016 era Trump media than 2020 Trump media. I mean, I take your point that they're after this debate, like we saw some glimpses from the mainstream media about the asymmetry of the lies coming from Trump versus Harris. I just think overall they've really shit the bed on covering this.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Trump had that whole "I don't talk to JD Vance." That was really funny.
JD Vance said that your running mate JD Vance said that he would.
I don't talk to him. Don't know what he's saying. I don't talk to that guy.
Right. I mean, I like that guy, but I mean, he doesn't speak for me. And that was it. Did you ever hear a couple of months ago or a month ago he said that vice presidents don't matter?
Oh, geez.
So like this is like the third shot across the bow that he's made at JD Vance. He was asked about a month ago. He was asked in an interview about Vance's popularity because he's like the least popular running mate in American recorded history, and he goes, "Well, I like JD Vance, but historically speaking, vice presidents don't matter all that much." And then he says this today or yesterday. It's so funny, man. And
when Kamala mentioned,
go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
When Kamala mentioned his 6 bankruptcies, oof, that one irritated him. I
Oh, I
don't think he
missed
really
that.
responded. Yeah, she said it. A guy that inherited like $500 million and used it to file 6 bankruptcies or whatever. He didn't like that one, but he didn't even get a chance to respond to it, or he didn't because his answer rambled on other shit. I also liked him admitting that he would commit crimes by solving the Ukraine-Russia conflict before he even gets back into office.
Yeah, bro, like he's said shit like that before. That's a Logan Act violation.
Yeah.
If he's done anything, like if he's actually engaged with foreign leaders in any meaningful way besides like a hey, how you doing? Like if he's actively attempting to influence foreign policy, that's a Logan Act violation right there. I don't know if they'd ever.
I don't even know if he knows it's
investigate it.
illegal though. He's just fucking retarded. He's an idiot. Yeah, he's just a dumb.
Could you see at this point, like following all the Trump prosecutions and investigations, like when the FBI, like when somebody at the FBI or Department of Justice hears something like that, when they hear Donald Trump say, like imply, as he has done repeatedly, that he's having some sort of sensitive communications with foreign leaders, what do you think? Do you think they take that seriously at all, or like?
I mean,
Do
I'm
they
sure
look
it's
into
always
it?
like cause for concern. I'm sure they're always like keeping their eyes open, but yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it would not be the predicate for a full-blown investigation, but I wonder what it would take because I feel like you can't ignore that shit, right? That's at least worth noting.
Yeah, I'm sure it is noted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if I wonder how different. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I feel like it could have potentially been really scary if Trump would have picked RFK as his vice presidential nominee.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like
Because
they're
RFK
close
was polling decently, right? Like 7 to 10% is decent for a third party candidate. I wonder if that would have been a way stronger choice.
Let me ask you. So, I think it's a fair question. I mean, I have no doubt compared to JD Vance that it would have been a better decision because JD Vance brings you nothing. JD Vance brings Trump nothing that Trump didn't already have. At least with Mike Pence, Mike Pence secured the evangelical vote, but Vance is just more of the same. So I take your point that if it's a choice of running mates between Vance and RFK, you go with RFK. However, he has Vance, and he's also got RFK's endorsement. So,
Maybe it
I
doesn't
guess what I'm
matter.
saying, do you think that would make a meaningful difference? RFK as VP versus just RFK endorsing Trump and potentially getting a cabinet position. Like, do you think RFK voters would be more inclined to back
The
Trump?
problem is if you support RFK or Trump, you don't even know what a cabinet is or what it means or what any of those things are. I don't know. Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. I have no idea. But yeah, who knows?
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.